MIKMAQ militias were made up of MIKMAQ warriors who worked independently as well as in coordination with the Wabanaki Confederacy, French and Acadian forces throughout the colonial period to defend their homeland MIKMAKI against the English. In the 19th century, the MIKMAQ boasted that, in their contest with the British, the MIKMAQ killed more men than they lost. In 1753, Charles Morris stated that the MIKMAQ had the advantage of no settlement or place of abode, but wandering from place to place in unknown and, therefore, inaccessible woods, is so great that it has hitherto rendered all attempts to surprise them ineffectual. Leadership on both sides of the conflict employed standard colonial warfare, which included scalping non-combatants. After some engagements against the British during the American Revolution, the militias were dormant throughout the 19th century. While the MIKMAQ people used diplomatic effort to have the local authorities honor the treaties. After Confederation, MIKMAQ warriors eventually joined the Canadian war efforts in World War I and World War II. The most well-known colonial leaders of these militias were Chief Jean-Baptiste Cope and Chief Etienne Batard. 16th century. Battle at Baie de Bic. According to Jacques Cartier, the battle at Baie de Bic happened in the spring of 1534. 100 Iroquois warriors massacred a group of 200 MIKMAQ camped on Massacre Island in the St. Lawrence River. Baie de Bic was an annual gather place for the MIKMAQ along the St. Lawrence. MIKMAQ scouting parties notified the village that the Iroquois attacked the evening before the morning attack. They evacuated 30 of the infirm and elderly, and about 200 MIKMAQ vacated their encampment on the shore and retreated to an island in the bay. They took cover in a cave on the island and covered the entrance with branches. The Iroquois arrived at the vacate village in the morning. Finding it vacated, they divided into search parties but failed to find the MIKMAQ until the morning of the next day. The MIKMAQ warriors defended the tribe against the first Iroquois assault. Initially, after many had been wounded on both sides, with the rising tide, the MIKMAQ were able to repulse the assault and the Iroquois retreated to the mainland. The Mi'kmaq prepared a fortification on the island in preparation for the next assault at low tide. The Iroquois were again repulsed and retreated to the mainland with the rising tide. By the following morning, the tide was again low and the Iroquois made their final approach. They had prepared arrows that carried fire which burned down the fortification and wiped out the MIKMAQ. 20 Iroquois were killed and 30 wounded in the battle. The Iroquois divided into two companies to return to their canoes on the Buabuskash River. Battle at Buabuskash River. Just prior to battle at Baie de Bic, the Iroquois warriors had left their canoes and hid their provisions on the Buabusha River, which the MIKMAQ scouts had discovered and recruited assistance from 25 Malecite warriors. The MIKMAQ and Malecite militia ambushed the first company of Iroquois to arrive at the site. They killed 10 and wounded 5 of the Iroquois warriors before the second company of Iroquois arrived, and the MIKMAQ Malecite militia retreated to the woods unharmed. The MIKMAQ Malecite militia stole of the Iroquois canoes, leaving 20 wounded behind at the site. 50 Iroquois went to find their hidden provisions. Unable to find their supplies, at the end of the day they returned to the camp. The 20 wounded soldiers having been slaughtered by the MIKMAQ Malecite militia. The following morning, the 38 Iroquois warriors left their camp, killing 12 of their own wounded who would not be able to survive the long journey back to their village. 10 of the MIKMAQ Malecite stayed with the canoes and provisions while the remaining 15 pursued the Iroquois. The MIKMAQ Malecite militia pursued the Iroquois for 3 days, killing 11 of the wounded Iroquois stragglers. Battle at Rivière-Trois Pistoles. Shortly after the battle at Bouabouskash River, the retreating Iroquois set up camp on the Rivière-Trois Pistoles to build canoes to return to their village. An Iroquois hunting party was sent to hunt for food. The Mi'kmaq Malecite militia killed the hunting party. The Iroquois went to find their missing hunting party and were ambushed by the Mi'kmaq Malecite militia. They killed 9 of the Iroquois, leaving 29 warriors who retreated to their camp on Rivière-Trois Pistoles. The Mi'kmaq Malecite militia divided into 2 companies and attacked the remaining Iroquois warriors. The battle left 3 Malecite warriors dead and many others wounded. The Mi'kmaq Malecite militia was victorious, however, killing all but 6 of the Iroquois, whom they took prisoner and later tortured and killed. Quidditch Mi'kmaq war tradition indicates that there was war in the 16th century between the Quidditch and the Mi'kmaq. The great Mi'kmaq chief Uljamu led his people. The conflict was eventually settled through a peace treaty after the Mi'kmaq were successful in removing the Quidditch out of the Maritimes. 17th century. The Mi'kmaq were known in New England as Tarantines. Tarantines sent 300 warriors kill Nanapash Emmett in 1619 at his Mystic Fort. His family sent off to safe haven. His death ends the Massachusetts Penobscot-Tarantine War. Before 1620, the Penobscot-Tarantine War happened in Maine, in which the Pawtucket tribe supported the former. This led later to retaliatory raids by the Tarantines on the Pawtucket and Agawam tribes. In 1633, Tarantines raid the camp of Masconomet at Agawam in Essex County. King Philip's War. The first documented warfare between the Mi'kmaq and the British was during the First Abenaki War, which was the Battle of Port La Tour. In the wake of King Philip's War, the Mi'kmaq became members of the Wapanaki, an alliance with 4 other Algonquin language nations: the Abenaki, Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, and Malecite. The Wabanaki Confederacy allied with French colonists in Acadia. Over a period of 75 years, during 6 wars in Mi'kmaq, the Mi'kmaq fought to keep the British from taking over the region. The first war where there is evidence of widespread participation of the Mi'kmaq militias was King William's War. King William's War. During King William's War, the Mi'kmaq militia participated in defending against the British migration toward Mi'kmaq. They fought, with the support of their Wabanaki and French allies, the British along the Kennebec River in southern Maine, which was the natural boundary between Acadia and New England. Toward this end, the Mi'kmaq militia and the Malecite operated from their headquarters at Meductic on the St. John River. They joined the New France expedition against present-day Bristol, Maine, Salmon Falls and present-day Portland, Maine. Mi'kmaq tortured the British prisoners taken during these conflicts and the Battle of Fort Loyal. In response, the New Englanders retaliated by attacking Port Royal and present-day Guysborough. In 1692, Mi'kmaq from across the region participated in the raid on Wells. In 1694, the Malecite participated in the raid on Oyster River at present-day Durham, New Hampshire. 2 years later, New France, led by Pierre Le Moyne d'Iberville, returned and fought a naval battle in the Bay of Fundy before moving on to raid Bristol, Maine again. In the lead-up to this battle in Fundy Bay, on July 5, 140 natives, with Jacques Testard de Montigny and Chevalier, from their location of Maniwoganish Island, ambushed the crews of 4 English vessels. Some of the English were coming ashore in a longboat to get firewood. A native killed 5 of the 9 men in the boat. The Mi'kmaq burned the vessel under the direction of Father Florentine. In retaliation for the siege of Pemaquid that followed, the New Englanders, led by Benjamin Church, engaged in a raid on Chignecto and the siege of the capital of Acadia at Fort Nashwauk. After the siege of Pemaquid, d'Iberville led a force of 124 Canadians, Acadians, Mi'kmaq and Abenakis in the Avalon Peninsula campaign. They destroyed almost every English settlement in Newfoundland. Over 100 English were killed, many times that number captured, and almost 500 deported to England or France.